Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to another episode of Crew Call. I'm your host, Tyler Groom, and today we have a good friend of mine, Tess Falcone, on the show. She is a lighting designer and production designer for many great bands. She works for Weezer and Jimmy Eat World, as well as doing many other shows that I probably don't even know about. We met a couple years ago doing a music festival up in Lake Tahoe, and thought I would bring her on the show and hear from a lighting perspective what is going on in the world and what's new. So without further ado, please welcome Tess Falcone.
Woo! Yay!
Hi, Tess. How are you
Thanks
doing
for
today?
having me on. I'm great, Tyler. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. And I have to make a note because we talked about it before the show, but every lighting designer needs a Grand MA in their house for, it's basically an Alexa, right?
Basically.
Cool.
Hey, Grand MA, make a light show. We're working on it.
Hey, we all have room to grow. Well, thank you for being on the show today, Tess. I know we have a lot to talk about, but I want to know, because I don't know the answer to this, how did you get started in production?
Ooh. So my journey into lighting was a little different. I went to college. I went to a 4-year liberal arts school where I mostly did a lot of sciencey stuff. I was a biology major and finished school with a biology degree. But when I was a sophomore, maybe a junior, I started doing a lot more theater stuff. That I had done a bunch of theater in high school, and so I started getting involved in some of the plays. I started trying to do some acting stuff and realized that I didn't even know how to try out for a play. And somehow I decided to be a theater minor. And one of the core requirements for that was to do a stage design class as well as a lighting design class. And I had a really, really awesome couple of professors who got me interested in that. And I learned how to hang and focus lights. I learned a lot about conventional fixtures and all of that stuff. And then once I graduated, I moved to Denver and started working or interning rather, at the aquarium here. And not here, I'm not there, I'm in Los Angeles. Don't listen to me. In Denver, I started interning at the aquarium doing mammal training and did that for a few months before I decided that I was not really interested in doing it. And I was more interested in going to live shows, getting into shows for free, and learning a little bit more about the lighting side of it. So I changed my interning around and started interning at a venue in Denver and did that for a few months before another venue picked me up and said, "Hey, do you want to get paid for this?" Yeah, that would be cool. And I worked there for a few years and ended up I had met a couple lighting designers before that. I had gone up to some LDs at shows and been like, "Oh, you have a really cool job. What are you doing here? Show me around your desk." All of those cool pickup lines that you say to LDs. And one of them kept in touch with me and helped me get on my first tour. And then from that, they didn't do a whole lot of shows. And so after that, I went back to the venues and ended up meeting a very, very popular band that came through the venue. And they were not carrying any production. So I Facebook stalked the lead singer and said, "Hey, you guys weren't carrying any lights, and I had a really nice time working with you guys, and let me know if you would if you're looking for an LD in the future, because I'd love to tour with you." And he hit me up a few days later and said, "Yeah, sure, when can you start?" And I started touring from there. I continued touring from there, and kind of the rest is history.
So you got your first real job Facebook stalking somebody? Like
I
first
mean, it
real
was my second real job, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Your first touring job.
Yeah, it's again technically my second. I
Okay.
had
Okay.
the first one came from the guy that I had come up to at the venue, and I was just like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. That's so cool. Can I email you questions?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, that's great." And so I emailed him some questions and he said, these are really good questions that you're asking. And so then the next time that he came through, I was working at a show at that venue, and he had a day off and came out to the show and checked out all of the lights that I was doing, which was just a park hand rig. It was nothing exciting. And um, and from there, he had some shows that he couldn't do that was actually with a band that was opening up for Jennifer Lopez at state. There was a couple stadiums and an arena in Brazil, and he's like, "Hey, can you cover these shows?" Can I cover the shows of a band that I enjoy opening up for J-Lo in arenas? Sure, that sounds great. And that was a great experience, also terrifying, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I learned a lot those first couple shows. And then from there, yeah, I Facebook stalked to get into like a consistent touring schedule.
That's awesome. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
See, how do
it's
these
fun.
how do these conversations come up in normal life? I don't know. I feel like it's weird to just be like, "Hey, how'd you get started?" But
I
that's
mean,
why I wanted to do the show, because it's like this is a much better platform. I feel like, and it's helping a lot
yeah,
more people than you know just us. So,
yeah.
so for those that don't know, what exactly does a lighting designer do?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects of lighting. So there are a lot of different positions that exist within a tour, a rock tour. So you'll have a the sort of the top of the design side of things is the production designer or the lighting designer. The production designer is essentially a lighting designer that helps with sets and all of that kind of things and the overall show. And then the lighting designer takes care of all of the lighting and actually is creating all of the drawings, talking with the artist or the management to figure out what their needs are for a show, what their goals are for the show, and maybe to give you a little bit more direction. And then putting together a lighting plot that takes care of all those, but it is also interesting. And then from there, on the bigger tours, you'll actually have these positions broken out into a lot of different people too. But on the smaller tours, one person will frequently take over a lot of those positions. So you'll also have a lighting programmer who is doing all of the programming on one of these things, hopefully, if you're lucky enough, and actually writing out all of the cues for every song, or even just creating a show file that you can do without cues, so which we call busking or punting, and that's just making it up on the fly, just sort of playing the board like an instrument. Um, and so that's the programmer, and then a lot of tours will also have someone else for as an operator or a director who runs the lights for the tour, also spotlights if there are any, and does all of the day-to-day needs, such as reprogramming songs if they change things, or or changing around focus positions, refocusing things, and that kind of stuff.
So, what category do you fall under most times these days?
Most times these days, I do a lot of design work and programming work, but I also still love touring, so I do a lot of all of those combined a little bit. I'm more of like middle scale shows where I will do a lot of those different roles, and part of it is just for sheer enjoyment. If I have the time, I would love to be on the road and touring. The last couple of years, I've been on the road maybe 10 months out of the year, and that is where I am happiest. That is what I enjoy. I like being that part of the show. I like being behind the scenes. I don't like so much of the being in front of the camera side. So thanks for this. Um,
Hey, it broke me out of
but
my comfort zone too. I don't like being in front of the camera either, but I'm forcing myself to
no,
do it.
that's why we're the crew. We hang out in the shadows.
Yep. So that's a good segue into my next question, which you kind of already answered. Of what is your favorite part about your job?
I do. I love running the show. I like programming a lot too, actually. There's something a little bit magical about seeing your work unfold after you've spent a lot of time programming hits to look super cool, and it's very artistic. And I am definitely I like to, a friend of mine's little daughter calls me a light artist, which I appreciate. And I'm just taking that and just calling myself a light artist from now on, which is like the snootiest way you could possibly say things, but I like it anyway because I love art and I love like I spend a lot of my time looking at art. And so one of my favorite things about the show when I'm programming it is seeing how that art unfolds and what I have created. And I really do enjoy running the show as well. I do like I come from a musical background. My mom was a music teacher, and I learned how to play piano when I was like 4 years old. So part of it is getting to play an instrument sort of with along with the music, but also not having to be on stage. So it's a bit of like a chill performance.
And you like the traveling aspect of it?
I love the traveling aspect of it. It's so, so fun. And one of the hardest parts about right now being home is that I am like seeing the same things every day. I'm not used to that. I'm used to being in a new city. I know that I'm a younger person. I did not tour before Google. Um, and so it must have been really hard waking up on a bus in the morning and not being able to say, okay, where am I? Um, but I appreciate that having that question of having no idea where you are and getting to walk around a new city and finding out what cool things that city or even in a big city finding out where you are in a small side of it and figuring out what that neighborhood has to offer. And so I've been trying like on during COVID, I've been just walking away and into new neighborhoods in my city and just trying to figure out, oh, I've never seen that house before. That's cool. And it sort of brings me back into that mindset of traveling.
Well, and I think a lot of us in the industry, whatever aspect of the industry we're in, kind of thrive on the chaos. And
Yeah.
so like this forced reset is definitely good in a lot of respects. For me, I know it's
Mhm.
allowed me to be home with my family more, and I love that because it's something that I've always kind of struggled to balance. But
Absolutely.
just that forced that chaos that we're used to, and now like having to actually relax. I'm not a relaxing
Yeah.
person. I can't just sit
No.
and relax. It's just not me. So
Yeah.
this is a good time to train myself to do that, certainly. But I
Hmm.
do miss the chaos of the uncertainty of,
Yeah.
yeah, where am I? Open the back of the truck. What do I have to work with today? That's like
Yep.
let's make a show. So that's
Yeah.
something I do miss for sure. And something you don't really
Absolutely.
get in a a theater gig or something like that that's kind of the same place every day.
Yep. You know
I've
what
thought
to
about
expect.
I've thought about trying to take a job at a theater or do something. It's like I just don't I
Mhm.
wouldn't get the same I don't know the same level of chaos that I want. I guess
Yeah.
so.
And on a weirder note, it's we also deal with a lot of different people, and I know that a lot of us say that we don't like people because we get to see some of the dumbest ones. And I'm not saying that just in our industry, but just like being able to travel, you see some like you see the best and the worst of cities. And so a lot of us are, man, I just hate people. It sucks. But we get to see some like we get to meet new people every day. And I feel like that is something that is absent in a lot of career paths and something that is really really absent right now since we can't even interact with strangers at all.
Right. No, it's absolutely true. So tell me a little bit about what are some of your favorite projects you have worked on?
Ooh. So one of the cooler designs that I've done was actually this last year um, working with Jimmy Eat World. I've been working for them for 3 years now, something like that, 2.5 years. I don't know. And they are the biggest sweethearts, and they like each other, which is a new thing for me with bands. A lot of the bands that I've worked for are just they've been around for a long time and they're just kind of sick of each other. And the Jimmy World guys are so sweet and they hang out on days off with each other and it's really refreshing. But also this was the first big design that I had gotten to do for them because when I took over, I was doing someone else's show. And it's always kind of frustrating doing someone else's show. You're dealing with the way that they set up the console and the way that like what their vision was for the show. And so actually being able to start from scratch and do your own have your own vision for that band and for that music can be really really nice. And Jimmy's has been around for a long time too. They've been around for 20 years or something, and so, but I haven't listened to them. I didn't listen to them as much for that whole time, and so I was coming to it with a really fresh perspective of just I'm hearing some of these songs for the first time. Let's see what it looks like. And so this design, as you can see on your screen here, was created by my partner Dan Hadley and I, and we were given a very small amount of stage space. I think we had 14 feet of depth to work with for a 5-piece band. And I think we were told very early on in the tour, I think probably the first day, that if we did not get our stuff off of stage within 12 minutes, then they were going to start cutting our stuff from the show because we were a direct support act. And so we had this like immense pressure, and our first show was at the Greek in Los Angeles, which is hard to do anyway, just because it's a low trim height and there's no backstage space. And so it's a nightmare. Not to mention it's the first day of tour, which always sucks because you're always still trying to get together all of your gear, make sure that all of your looms are proper. You don't necessarily have all your programming intact. It's really, really difficult. And so that was a really, really challenging first couple of days, especially because we had part of the issue with it was that these fans that are up in the air are 200 pounds. They are 4 foot by 4 foot, and they are monsters. And so the manufacturer drawings for those had some of the hardware on the top on the wrong spot. And so when the company that was building these frames for us built them, they didn't have one of those fans in their shop. And so they just went by the drawings. And so all of their clips were in the wrong spots. And so we had to, it was like a day before the tour and started, and we had to be figuring out some workarounds for hardware to hang these ridiculously heavy things that we could then also drop and get off the stage in a very short amount of time. And I think the first day we ended up doing it in 7 minutes, and it was just like, yeah, we just did that. And then for sure, like the second show was way worse, and we definitely screwed up some stuff. But the first show was the one that really counted, since it was like where it's LA, so there's all the management and everyone's watching, and it's horribly nerve-wracking. But I think it came out really nicely, and pretty happy with it. So that was definitely one of my favorite things that I've worked on recently, just because it's awesome. Pretty too.
So in those fans, were those lights in the fans?
So those are a lighting fixture built by a lighting manufacturer, and they have a grate on the front of them that has LED strips across it, and there's 3 controllable zones on it, and so you can do some kind of cute little wave effects of color. I think we ended up hanging them on that tour. They were sideways, and so we could do some in to out and out to in type stuff with the colors. And then they also they're super high powered. They can change direction really quickly. They can stop really quickly. And they have a large range of speeds. So you can do some really, really interesting effects. And I did a redesign for this tour as well that I don't have photos for, but where the fans were sitting on the floor, and we had some lights behind them that we shone through the fans, so that when the fans were spinning, you were getting these cool like cut light patterns in the air. So yeah, those are the biggest pain to carry on tour, but they are also so pretty, and I love them so much.
That's awesome. So yeah. Tell me a little bit about, are there any shows or projects or whatever that you have watched or, maybe been a part of in some aspect that you're particularly proud of, or you just like the design and all that kind of stuff?
Ooh, there's a lot of places that we could start on that. I have a lot of shows. I love seeing shows in general. And so even when I'm not designing something, or when I'm not touring, I'm trying to see shows and trying to see what's out there. I'm sort of the opinion that as a designer, you should know what else is out there, and you should know what has already been done. So A, so that you don't repeat it, but B, so that you can take cool small elements of those tours and turn them into other things and just get inspiration. And so one of the coolest shows that I've seen in the last long time, actually, probably, is the David Byrne show. So David Byrne was designed by Rob Sinclair, and um, who does a bunch of really, really amazing shows, and he is just an incredible designer. But David Byrne, if you don't know who David Byrne is, he's the guy from the Talking Heads, and he is fantastic. And so this show, this picture that's up right now is you can see this is the start of the show and how David comes out, and then the curtain around him is actually just chain. It's a thin chain, and so that truss is a U shape around the stage, and it starts on the ground, and then as it goes up, you see all of this chain unraveling, and so it goes from a black stage into this silvery chain look, and then throughout the show, probably pretty early in the show, the rest of the band joins him, and it's this just crazy thing of everyone dances a bunch. Everyone's instruments are handheld. So even like there's keyboards and drums and all sorts of things that they just wear on their bodies. They are all barefoot and they just do these crazy dances around the stage. And it is really, really interesting, especially in this photo, you can see just some of the really interesting shadow play that they have on the curtain. And so this was by far one of my favorite shows that I've ever seen in life, partially just because David Byrne is so awesome, but also just because, I mean, I've never seen something that cool with that simple of it, like that simple, that clean of a look. I think David Byrne was actually involved in the design of this as well. I think this might have been his initial idea, and that Rob Sinclair kind of translated into production speak and made it happen. And it's super duper cool. They also did I think they turned that into a Broadway musical for some time too.
So literally just chain hanging on the truss.
It's chain hanging on the truss, just making an entire curtain through a curtain. And
Wow.
oh man, and so some of the coolest parts about it was that since everyone had their instruments in their hands, there would be times when David was saying a solo part, and so the band would leave, and because it's just chain, like the curtain is just chain, they can exit anywhere, and so the band members would just exit wherever they wanted, and then at times they would like stick their hand out with their instrument in it through the chain and like shake it, or like a foot through the chain and then shake it, and or just do these crazy, really creative things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have to talk about, and you know, you and I talked a little bit about it, but one of my favorite shows, and I don't go to nearly as many shows as you do probably, but my wife really wanted to go see Justin Timberlake, so I was like, I am totally down to go see that because I'm a big fan personally, and so we went and saw his Man of the Woods tour last year, and the automation that was on the show was insane.
It's so cool.
All of the scrims, I read the writer and they were talking about how they had like 32 projectors on the show, and I'm like, where are they? We show up and we're like, where are they going to shoot these projectors? Like, there's nowhere to show them. And we show up, and this was kind of what they had, and it had like his logo on it. It was all that was on it. And I was like, well, that's kind of going to be in the way of like watching the show. It's kind of weird. And then when the show started, and every single one of these was automated by itself, and then they had, I think they had D3 media servers driving it, and so they would like echo the same shot on every single scrim and all kinds of stuff. And then there was grass growing out of the ground.
Yeah.
It was a remarkable show.
It's like 32 inches of grass that Tate Automation Systems is who does all of their automation. They're the tops. They're so good. And they have worked with Justin for a long time. I think they've been doing his tours forever. And I think it was like 32 inches of grass that they grew out of the stage for this like little campfire moment. And everyone's like, wait a second, where did that grass come from? And then it just goes away, like you don't even like, and you're not even thinking about it, but it just goes away. It's magical. It's so cool.
And then they had, I was trying to find a picture right now as I was thinking about it, but then they had a whole laser show just in a circle around him, and it was fantastic. And they had
Well,
a pyro thing where they had like an actual campfire
mhm.
that would just like pop out of the stage.
Yeah. The lasers
But
are cool because with him, he is so well trained to like, and he knows what he's doing so much that with a lot of artists, you have to be careful of the artist in terms of safety for things like pyro and lasers. And so for that whole thing where he is just a circle of lasers surrounding him, and it goes really really tight around him. He just knows, like he's doing this crazy dance number, and he just knows that he has to look at the ground because he does not want to be blinded. And it's just he's like that trained and that good at these things. Yeah, it's
and
so good.
I wish I had a video to show because it was just remarkable how he was in and out of kind of the stream of lasers.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was definitely one of my favorite shows, and there was a couple behind us that were talking about, oh, these tickets are so expensive. It's
Sure.
this better be worth it. Blah blah blah. And I was like, I hadn't even seen the show, and I just had seen the writer and all the lights and everything that were on it, and I was like, I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah,
So
it always is.
it
This
was
is that's one of the shows that I will pay for no matter what. And this tour I actually like I have a long history with lighting and Justin Timberlake. It was like the first show that I really was like, "Oh my God, the lights are so cool. I need to do this." Um and so I really, really wanted to see this tour. The last tour that I had seen was the 2020 experience, and it was the best light show that I've ever seen. It was the best video show I've ever seen. It was the best laser show I'd ever seen. So yeah, so this is 2016, I think. Um, and all of these, so everything was projection mapped. So there were a ton of projectors in the ceiling, and also every other hexagon that's in that rig on at least on the back wall is scrim, and so there's lights behind it. And so something that a lot of the time what Justin really wants out of his shows is to not be able to see lighting fixtures, which is super cool and something that I feel like is very unusual in our industry right now. But it makes it really, really clean, and also it's a nice surprise when all of that just lights up behind you, and you had no idea that any of it was there. Um, but so I made sure that for this last tour, um, the one with the grass growing and all of that, the Man of the Woods tour, I really wanted to go see it, and I had gotten tickets to it in Denver in January of 2019, I think, and it was canceled because of his voice. And I also had, at the same time, I had a tour come up, so I had to miss that show, and then it got canceled anyway because of his voice. And so it was fine, and I got a refund for the tickets. I was like, okay, cool, sweet, that's fine. And so then my boyfriend and I had planned on flying to Seattle to see him at another time, like I think March, beginning of March of that month. And so we flew to Seattle, and it was when Seattle was having their crazy snowstorm, and they had never experienced any snow like this. They don't see that kind of snow, and so they're not prepared for it. And so the arena actually, this was at the Tacoma Dome, I think. The arena canceled both of the shows because of snow accumulation on the roof. So it was too heavy, so they couldn't hang Justin's rig because it's so heavy. And so they're like, yeah,
wow.
cool, we're just not going to do the shows. We're just going to cancel both of them. And so then we missed it again. So we were in Seattle hanging out in the snow, not getting to see Justin Timberlake again. And so then everything, like his tour went on for a very long time, and it got pushed back because he had some vocal issues. But so then I finally got to see it in April, in the middle of a tour. I flew out to Indianapolis to see the show, and my boyfriend at the time was like, my boyfriend was like, I can't see it, I'm on tour, sorry. And so a friend of mine who lives in Indianapolis came, and the two of us just had the best time, just flitting around the stage and just checking out everything. And but that is a show. Moral of the story, going back, was that I will pay for that show no matter what happens. That is one of the ones that I do not want to get into for free, because I want to support everything that he's doing, because he values production and he values his crew, and I think very highly of him.
And now that you say that, I remember we couldn't go the first time because he canceled it. And I was booked on something, and when they rescheduled it, my wife was 8 months pregnant at the time, I think, and we were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go. Well, hopefully, nothing happens, but we're gonna go." So I was actually able to go because he rescheduled it, so it all worked out. But and actually, speaking of your Facebook stalking story, I actually went down on the arena floor before the show. No, it was after the show. I was like, I'm gonna go talk to the LD. I'm not a lighting guy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just want to go tell him good job, just chat for a minute. And I did a little Facebook stalking beforehand, and he's my friend on Facebook now, so he's probably watching this, and he's going to find out, and that's fine.
Sweet.
But he's actually friends with little Pete Oxenham.
Oh, Pete.
And he lives in Sacramento. So
wow,
kind of a small world. Strange. So
that's a pretty good gig. Yeah. I'm a little jealous of that gig.
Right? Yeah, so I went down and chatted with him for a while and added him as a friend on Facebook. And,
sweet.
Yeah, anyways.
I'm a big fan of that, of just like asking, like of meeting people, and just like I went to see, I'm a big musical theater fan, and a bunch of years ago when Hamilton first opened, I was in New York with my family for a family performance thing. And so my brother-in-law had bought us really swanky tickets to Hamilton. And we were up in the, I mean, it was swanky. It was still, we were up in the balcony, and it was amazing. And the lighting in that show is really, really good. The programming is really good. And from the balcony, you can see everything that's happening because you can see the floor really well. And so after the show, I waited up by the booth, and I waited a long time because it was like right before the Tonys. And so they had some other work to be doing. And one guy came down and was like, "Hey, are you the LD?" And he's like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "Are you looking for someone?" Like, "Yeah, I just wanted to talk to the lighting guy. I'm a lighting person, and I was just interested." And so I ended up waiting a little bit longer. He went and grabbed the guy, and the guy came down and was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I know that I don't look like someone who works in production a lot of the time, and I think I had a dress on, and so the guy was just like, "Cool, what's up? How you doing?" And I was, "Hi, this was really cool." And I just chatted with him for a while, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come down onto the stage and just take a backstage tour?" I was like, "Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to see the lighting rig." And so he took me backstage, and we chatted. My sister went with me, and my mom was really jealous the whole time. And he showed me the lighting rig and was really nice about everything. And then I kind of just kept in touch with him a little bit over the years. And it turns out he's a giant Weezer fan. And so we have both had fun moments of being like little fanboys over each other's work. So that was a really funny thing to happen. But also, like, it's just, what's the worst that can happen, really?
Yeah.
Like if you just go up to someone and tell them that you like what they did.
Yeah, that was kind of my philosophy. I was like, I'm gonna do it. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm staying up here." Okay, fine. So it was super cool though. So tell me one thing that you cannot live without when you're on show site.
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, something as stupid as tea. I drink a lot of tea as I'm drinking iced tea. But I also, I mean, it depends on the show, kind of. So on the bigger tours, on the arena tours, I like carrying a soccer ball around in my front of house case. And like, if I have a spare moment to just like get my head out of the work that I'm currently doing, if I need to, I can just kick a ball against the dasher. And so I really love doing that. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer to that. It changes all the time.
I think a soccer ball's a good answer, though. I mean,
that's okay.
Pete Siegel and I were talking about, sometimes when you're on site, like sometimes you just need to escape. Like you need to kind of get away from the people. Not that there's anything wrong with them, just you need some space. And so however we can find ways to do that, I think is important. He had talked about, sometimes like you don't go out with the crew for dinner every single night necessarily. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you just need some space, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, going out to eat with the crew all the time can be exhausting, only because, like, not because the crew is exhausting, which can also be true, but but also just having to deal with splitting a check every night is so stressful.
It absolutely is. It definitely is. And his comment too, and when we did our show, it was a lot about kind of the culture and what you want to kind of make the team.
Hmm.
You know, even when you go out to dinner, you want to be social and you want to hang out as friends, but inevitably it always turns to work because that's what you guys are doing.
That's
And
what you have in
so,
common. Yeah.
yeah, so having that time away from work is important.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're
So,
doing like long overnight hours and stuff. Just like, okay, I've been sitting at this desk for the last 6 hours. Like, get me something
right.
apart. Just let me walk.
So, because you and I met doing Snow Globe up in Lake Tahoe, tell me a little bit about how the difference between doing a touring show like Weezer, Jimmy Eat World, and doing a show like a music festival where, you know, you have writers for people, but you're dealing with, you know, 7 or 8 bands a day, and how you manage that.
It seems, I mean, it's important to, you can kind of distinguish what your roles are at festivals too. So a lot of the time, like with Snow Globe, I started out working Snow Globe. I had done that since the first year it existed, uh, which, good God, who kept me there that long? Pete, asshole. But the first year that I did it, I was a stagehand, and I just wanted to do it because my parents live in Reno, and so it was a free flight home for Christmas. And then um, the next year I came in and I was one of two side stage LDs, and so I was just like hanging out, and I was dealing with every single band that came, or artist. We'll say artist because I don't think there were a lot of bands at that festival at that stage, but every single person who came through there, we were doing the lights for, and so it was just constant. And you're dealing with writers that people make like at that level might not have taken time to make actually functional for you, and so then they come in with all of these demands and without their own person, so you're dealing with that. um, but then, and that was a lot. I think that was a lot more stressful on some notes than just being the main stage LD, because at least as the main stage LD you have a lot of support staff, and you have a full crew on stage, and you have your technicians. So you have your lighting and your video technicians that can help, and you have the stage manager that can help. um, but so they're doing a lot more of the work with the writers, and you're just kind of there to help implement when the time comes. So when you're doing those overnight load-ins and figuring that out. um, but on the tech side of it, on the front of house side of it, we'll say on the other end of the snake, that's the proper way to say that, right? um, on the other end of the snake, when you're at front of house, you're just dealing with a lot of other LDs. So you're dealing with people who know their artists better and who have their own shows, complete, like either completely or partially or winging it. And so that is, you are more of a liaison than you are actually the lighting designer or lighting director or whatever, than you are on the side stages. Which can actually be kind of fun. I hate festivals a lot, but I also love festivals a lot because I love the human aspect of it. And you're actually getting to meet other people who do what you do. And that is not as common with tours. And when you're on a tour, you're not, unless you're on a co-headliner, which I have gotten stuck on a lot of. And so I've gotten to know a lot of other really rad LDs. But otherwise, when you're just doing your own thing, you're not seeing other people who do your job. So you don't have people to talk to about and to nerd out about the stuff that you want to nerd out with. So it is super fun. And from actually doing the lighting, it's way more fun to be on a tour and doing stuff with your own rig and your own show. But from a human standpoint, it can be way more fun to just to do those festivals and actually meet all those people, and see what things happen that are preventable, and what things happen that aren't preventable, and how the touring people deal with them. That can be always a fun little guessing game. Is this person going to take this instead? uh, yeah, I think you could probably relate on that front a lot.
Like when somebody else comes over and starts messing with the console for the headliner act and they're not the headliner.
Mm-hmm.
Good
You're like,
times.
oh, excuse me, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, good times.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So, for all the young kids out there who are watching this show,
All
uh,
zero of them.
yes, or people who are watching the show who may have kids who want to get into
Oh yeah,
production,
there you go.
what would you suggest that they do if they're interested in lighting or production in general or any of that?
I mean, if we're discussing in 2020, I feel like probably run and find a different career because we ain't going anywhere. Um,
Or get really good at Christmas
but
lights.
get really good at Christmas lights. Oh, oh my God, that's depressing. Oh man, all future LDs are just going to be on the Christmas lights shows, the game shows. Oh no, I don't want that at all. Oh, jeez.
I just
I don't
derailed the
know.
entire conversation.
It's gone. I'm like landscaping lighting. Become a professional electrician. I don't know. Seems it's pretty bleak. So I don't know. I mean, there are definitely things like I think that an overall general advice that's good in any industry really, and something that we get to see a lot is people working hard and working together as a team, and that's actually one of my favorite parts about our industry, and it feels sort of unique only because I don't hang out in desk jobs ever, but I love seeing crews come together and work as a team to create a final project or a final I don't remember the word that I'm looking for, but
Experience.
sure, a final experience. Yeah, just to create that one thing. Like I think that that's so fun to watch. And there's a lot of things in our industry that happen that you can't do without somebody else. Um, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, like having a good work ethic can get you a lot of places, and it can be frustrating at a time like right now when you don't have projects to work on, and you have this work ethic that's just chomping at the bit. It's just like, what are we gonna do today? Um, but but it can be really really helpful, and I think that just knowing how to work hard and being eager and being friendly, being kind are all really just good pieces of general advice. You have to respect the people that you work around. You have to respect the people that you're working below. You have to respect the people you're working above. Just be kind.
Well, and I think now, going back to the whole Facebook stalking thing, like reach out to people.
Hmm.
Everyone's at
Hmm.
home. Why am
Yeah.
I doing this? Because I want to talk to people. I want to learn things.
Hmm.
You don't have
Sure.
to get on a call with them, but find out who the LD for Justin Timberlake is. Write him a message
It's
on
Nick
Facebook.
Whitehouse.
You never
He's
know.
awesome. We're already friends. We met at LDI last year.
There you
Boom.
go. Or contact the lighting companies.
Yeah.
When things do go back to semi-normal, they're probably not going to be super busy right off the bat. Maybe you can go into the shop and look around or whatever.
I
I
mean,
think
even
now,
when they are busy, the shops I feel like always need people to come in and learn, and it's a little bit of grunge work and doing the worst things and wrapping cable and cleaning fixtures and all of that kind of stuff. But I think there's always a company looking for somebody like that.
and that builds work ethic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I
And
think
it
I
makes
think
you want to do
that's
other stuff sometimes.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, have there been any key people throughout your career that have been maybe unofficial mentors for you, or kind of
Mm.
helped uh, change your trajectory, or whatever that may be?
For sure, the first person that I would call him an official mentor. I don't know what the official side of that takes, um, but his name is Brock Hogan, and he was when I met him, he was out with Cobra Starship and 303, and he was the lighting designer for both. And I was going to that show because I used to have bad taste in music. I'm so sorry. And I met him, and he was the one that I was talking about earlier, who I kept in touch with and said that I was asking all the right questions, and who got me that first tour opening up for J Lo. And without that, like it's the whole thing of you can't get a tour without experience, or well, you can't get experience without having experience. And he gave me that opportunity without any touring experience, and without that tour, I would not have gotten the following tours or anything else probably. And so just having him give me that chance was huge. And he also, after a couple years later, he got me another tour that led to another couple tours that led to another tour that led to another tour. And he was the rigger for my last two tours with Weezer, um, and which was a weird little circle of life thing. But he has been one of the most key people in my career for sure. Um, and I am super fortunate to have him as a friend. But yeah, that's a major part of it. My partner, my design partner, whose home I am currently in, whose MA that is, um, also has been really, really helpful in getting me into the design side of things. I did not do very many designs before I met him, and he's the LD for the Foo Fighters, and among others. And he is incredibly creative and incredibly intelligent and talented, and has really like taught me how that process works. And like he makes, yeah, we have a handful of, you can put up either of those, that's cool. This is one of the designs that he had for the Foo Fighters a couple of years ago when we met. So this is the one that I've seen the most of, and it is stunningly beautiful and also really cool because it is a dirty rock show, but also a stunningly beautiful dirty rock show. And he just does some really, really incredible work. And he also makes models for his designs out of paper and cardstock and all of these things, and pipe cleaners. And so just there's something special about designing something with your hands on it, and it's so different from just drawing on a Vectorworks on a computer, and you can see everything in 3D, and it's very clean and it's very pristine. And if you're not getting your hands on it, you don't necessarily know how things move or how things can really work together. And he does that really, really well. And so I've been taking that side of it from him and kind of learning how to be a good designer. And I really respect his work and his work ethic, and he works hard, and yeah, very helpful.
So I know I already asked about what people can do if they want to get into production. Is there any software that you would recommend people try and learn right now? I don't know if it may have like simulation stuff that you can do, or
They do. So a lot of the different consoles have their own free software that you can learn while without having to have a desk like a console with you. So MA is the best console that exists, and it's, I mean, I know that there are people that swear by other consoles. Personally, for me, this is the best console that exists. This is the newer version. This is the 3. There's a 2 that is still kind of getting phased over into 3, but there is software available on the internet for that, and there are probably not as much for the 3 as there are for the 2, but there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. I've been learning After Effects to up my video skills, and I am finding that the internet is a magical place. And I know that that's not news, but YouTube especially, like the number of people that just give their time to create tutorials that are really, really helpful for other people who are learning their softwares is really incredible. And I know that a lot of them are monetizing them and have tens of thousands of followers, but it's still really, really neat. And I have learned a lot about the MA on that, like on YouTube. I've learned a lot on After Effects on YouTube. And so that's definitely, MA also has 3D software for the 2. So the 2 it's a separate 3D software, and then the 3 has the 3D software built in. So all of that stuff is really, really good to know. I would probably start learning the 3 because it's probably going to be the best, or the only, like one of the things that's out there that we are going to be seeing the most of over the next 10 years. And so it has the best shelf life of all of them. Yeah, I wouldn't even recommend learning the other softwares unless you have access to one of those consoles. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, okay, it depends on what your planning on doing with it. So if you have a theater nearby that you want to work at, figure out what theater or what kind of console they have there and see if you can learn stuff about it beforehand. Or even, I'm wondering also if right now is a good time to just contact theaters and just be like, hey, I want to work here. Can I learn your console? Can I come in and learn your console? I haven't tried to do that because it's not really necessarily the level that I need right now, but I would imagine that that would be a really interesting thing that you could do, or even the lighting companies. I think that might be a good time to just get your hands on software and try things out.
And I know I've talked about it on my other shows, but I think it's really important right now to have somewhat of a routine and try and stay productive. It's very easy to play Call of Duty until 2 a.m. and then sleep until 3 p.m.
Just talking about a friend.
Yeah,
there,
just yeah. I won't name names, myself included. But I know I have actually purchased some, like a full Adobe Suite training thing. I haven't used it yet, but I have purchased it. So, I made the first step.
That's the first step. As long as you know that you're already paying for it.
Yeah, and it was like $35. So let's be real, it wasn't out of control. But I also got like some projection online class subscription that's like, I think it was like $50, but it was normally like $250.
Yeah.
So I plan on doing that someday. Yeah. But even just like doing this show, just get out there, be productive, kind of keep yourself on a schedule as much as you can, and I don't know, it's been helpful for me.
I think that D3 is also giving away their licenses right now, so you can learn D3 video. That's a video server for those of you who don't know that. But yeah, I think they're giving away free licenses as well until the pandemic's over. So I would not be surprised if some others are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just learn something. That's all I can say. Just try and learn something.
Give yourself little small goals that are achievable.
Absolutely.
Not
like waking up before 10. Small goal number 1.
Waking up before 10. That's a pretty good small goal.
So, Tess, what is next for you? Or do you even know at this point?
Oh, goodness knows. Right now, we're hoping a lot of the bands that we work for are working on figuring out ways to do their stuff over the internet and trying to make it more interesting. I think we were just discussing that. I think a lot of the bands are switching over from the initial rush of everyone needs to put out content right now, so let's just sit in a living room and play acoustic guitar. I think that was like the initial things but now we're getting out of that and everyone's bored by that. And so like, okay, how can we actually make this captivating? And so a lot of the bands that we work for are trying to figure that out and see what they can do. And so one of the bands that I work for is talking about doing an actual like hour-long set in their studio and with some fun designy elements. And who knows if I'll get to go there or if it'll just be like, here, I'm sending you a bunch of random things. Have fun. Or if, we'll see. So that's definitely that. My bands have sworn off touring for 2020. So I'm assuming that when 2021 kicks back up, it's going to be raging and everyone's going to be touring and it'll be a whole lot of fun. And until then, just hanging out and learning new stuff and doing some gardening around here and building things. So we'll see. I don't know.
I am glad that people have finally gotten sick of the Zoom quality of production on TV or the internet or whatever. Like you were talking about, like sitting in the living room playing guitar. Like, okay, that's cool and relevant at the time, but it doesn't take much to up the quality. I mean, I am sitting in my office with the equipment I already had, and I feel like it looks pretty good. I don't know what else I can really change. I can always make it better, but it's better than a Zoom call. So
yeah, 100%.
I'm glad that we're past that point, and I hope that more people like actually up the production level. And I mean, I think doing live hour-long sets like full production is cool. Like that's where we're gonna be sitting. It's June. We've got a lot of 2020 left, so
yep.
Let's make something cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I think a lot of the production companies are creating rooms that have full production in them that are like high like sanitary or sanitizing status so that bands can come in, do a show. They have all the video elements as well so that they can do live streams or recordings or whatever. And I think that is like their focus from the lighting, like the production company standpoint. So it'll be interesting. I think we're gonna pop over to one on Wednesday and check it out and see if we can actually, if this is something that we can actually do and if it'll be cool. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Well,
let's
I
get the
mean,
shows.
it'll get some production workers back. It'll,
Hmm.
it's not going to replace our industry for the time being, but every little bit helps. And people still are going to be sitting at home and want content to watch. So let's at least make it
Yep.
good content and not quarantine content.
Yep.
My buddy Jason, 2 episodes, or was he last week or week before last? Was talking. He's one of the producers for a network that does a bunch of stuff on ABC and NBC and whatnot. And he was like, the networks don't want quarantine content. They want
Yeah.
content that can survive past it. So
Yeah.
let's stop trying to embrace the quarantine and make content that helps people escape the quarantine.
There's only
So
so many news anchors that you can see without pants. I'm just saying.
yeah, I mean the pants industry must be hurting right now.
Oh, they really are. They really are. Like, cool. We're seeing an uptick in sweatpants, but
But you can't buy them
everything
anywhere,
else.
so you have to buy them online. So you can't like
Yep.
make sure they fit or anything.
Well, sweatpants.
True.
They probably fit.
Very true. Well, thank you for being on the show today, Tess. So happy to
Thank you for
talk to
having
you.
me.
Glad you are
You
doing
too.
well. And stay productive, everybody. And please join us for our show next week, Monday at 3 p.m. approximately. And we'll have a fun new guest. And we'll see how long I can keep this show rolling. It's keeping me productive, so it's fun. And I'm probably going to need some ideas for guests at some point. I'm running out of people. I feel like I only have like 12 friends, so I've already talked to 6 of them. So we're halfway there, guys. So, anyways, comment, share it. I'm trying to make all the videos and everything public so you can share it with your friends. I really want this to be a helpful resource for people. So check it out and share it. Thanks, guys. See you next week. And thank you, Tess, for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.